Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. My name is Ines Prespianin, and I am a Product Marketing Associate here at Unitfly, and I'm going to be your host for today's session. So today's webinar is about Extension Kit's most popular module, the Property Operations module. And the purpose of the webinar is to describe some of the functionalities of the module, as well as to demonstrate the differences between the simple and advanced configuration mode. But before we dive into the presentations, let me first introduce our speakers. So the first today's speaker is Viktor Zagajski. Viktor is a solution consultant here at Unitfly, and he will be speaking about the simple configuration mode. The next speaker is Tadej Šetins. Tadej is a software engineer at Unitfly, and he will present the advanced configuration mode. During the presentations, feel free to ask any questions you might have in the chat box, and we will dedicate about 10 minutes after the presentations to try and answer all of your questions in the Q&A part. Just a reminder, the webinar is being recorded and the recordings will be sent to you in a follow-up after the webinar. So without further ado, let's start with the presentations. Viktor, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Ines. Hi, my name is Viktor, and I am solution consultant at Unitfly. Our today's topic, as mentioned before, is Extension Kit, simple versus advanced property operations. Our agenda today. So first we will have a brief introduction to property operations module, and then we will show you a few of the use cases. I'll show you two rules of a simple configuration, and then today we'll show you advanced configuration. So property operations module. Property operations is used when you would like to achieve different use cases that include working and manipulating the properties when a certain trigger happens. Some of the use cases for property operations is that you want to copy property from one object to another based on certain triggers. If you want to change properties on your trigger source, if you want to change all of the properties based on rule only once, and if you want to schedule a property change at some time. So some of the property operations options that we will show you today is first the trigger types, then monitor properties, different search filters, so static, dynamic, some copy modes, so from source to target or on source object, then find targets, it can be via property or via search, and from where you get your value from. It can be from source, it can be from Vault Search, or you can specify where you want to get your value from. So our first rule is rule named contract deal copy end date. So this rule will be triggered on your source document class contract once it goes to the state active. And what this rule does is it gets the value of the property end date and it puts it on the connected directly referenced deal from the contract. So our target is document class deal. So how this rule looks like in the extension kit. So the configuration of the rules, we have the name, we have the description. Configuration mode is simple for this use case. And now first we have a trigger type. This specific rule is being triggered once the object entered state. There are various different trigger types you can choose from: when the object is created, when the object is changed, when the object left state, enter state. You can schedule the rule, or you can just put the run once if you want to change a lot of object at once. Then we have our trigger source. So we have the object document, class contract, and when you select trigger types related to the state, you need to put the workflow and state here. If you just use object changed, like you will see in a different use case, different rule, you do not have to put workflow and state. And under trigger source, we have two different search filters. First, we have a static search filter, where you can compare or put the conditions for certain properties that are only static. So empty, so some static text, static numbers, static dates. You cannot put condition to properties, only static values for one property. And here you can see that our search filter is that end date is not empty once the trigger happens. In this rule, it is not configured, but you can put also the dynamic search filters that are where you can condition two properties. So you can condition when start date is after the end date, for an example. Also important thing to note is that you can add multiple filters like this, and now these two filters are connected with OR. So the rule can be triggered if this filter is active or this one. But if you put multiple conditions under one filter, then they are connected with AND. Then all of them need to be conditioned, so the rule is triggered. Below, we have our target. We are finding the target via property, and that property is deal. The object is referenced by the property deal. We have direct reference. We do not have filter conditions, and we have our property setters. So we have one property setter, and that is the property end date. We are getting, so putting it value on the target, we are getting the value from the source. Our value type is simple value, and the value is dynamic, so we can put the property that from which it will be set. And this is our first simple rule. Now for the second rule, we have the rule task, our logging event, transfer task status. So here we have this, our source is the object type task, class task, when it is changed. And our targets are our logging events. The difference here is that we do not have direct reference from the from source to target, but on the targets we are referencing the task, as you can see here with the orange squares. So the task is mentioned on our target, our logging events, and we are just transferring the value of the task status to our targets. And this is our rule in the extension kit. The difference here is that we have monitored properties. So first you can see here that the trigger type is object change, and we didn't put workflow or state. And additionally, what we have is monitored properties. This allows us to control the execution on the trigger of the rule only when this property is changed on our source. It doesn't matter the changed, only when it's changed. You can also put some conditions. So when if the task status is put to certain value, only then, only under that one certain value, the rule is triggered. We do not have any search filters. And here you can see the difference for finding the target. So here we are finding targets via search. So first we have status field conditions, where we have type. So our status field conditions are different default fields in the env files. We have ID, external ID, type, version, and if it is deleted or not. So first our type is statically put to our logging event. And we have additional property conditions that task equals self. So the value in our target search is being brought from the source. When you want to reference the source object somewhere in extension kit, this is how you put it. So this is self. In the brackets, you have a dot. And how you can write it down is just put %.% and it will be transferred to in this way. Thing to note here is that this can show you the local error, but you can ignore that. It will work just fine. And property setter is like from the previous rule. We have property the task status, and it is putting the value of the task status from our source. So thank you. That will be it for the simple configuration. And now over to you today.
Thank you, Victor. Hi, my name is Tadej, and I'm a software engineer at Unitfly. And in this part, we will go through the advanced configuration in property operations model. First, let me check additional settings that are available under the advanced configuration. So if we check some property operations rule, you can see that you have this configuration mode setting. And when you change it from simple to advanced, you can see that there are some more settings available that were in the simple configuration mode. So let me go through these settings. The first one is copy mode. Here you can choose between from source to target and on source object. From source to target mode works in a way that the trigger source object will trigger the rule, and properties defined in the target will be then set on some target object. When copy mode is set on source object, the trigger source object will trigger the rule, and also properties will be set on the same object. Execution mode is the next setting. Here you can choose between event handler, background transaction, and background. The main difference between them is that the event handler makes changes during the object check-in, and background transaction and background will make changes after the object was checked in. If you have copy mode set to from source to target, then the default execution mode will be set to background transaction. And if your copy mode is set to on source object, the default execution mode is set to event handler. But you can always change this as you want and as you need in your use case. Next setting is error handling behavior. Here you can choose between stop and continue. Both will lock errors if they happen during the rule execution. But when you have set it to stop and your execution mode is event handler, then when you want to check in the object and if error occurs, then the pop-up message will be shown in the client with the exception from the error that happened. And the last one setting is search timeout. Here you can define search in timeout in seconds, which will be then used in searches across this rule. Okay, so now we can begin with our use cases. Just please note that this presentation does not focus so much on the actual use cases, but more on the advanced configuration and the target configuration. So our first use case is with the copy mode set to from source to target. And here we have a offer object, which will be our trigger source, and the opportunity, which is our target. And what we want to achieve here is when offer gets in state accepted, we want to set the workflow state on the related opportunity to 1. So if we check the rule configuration of this, so as I mentioned, our trigger source is offer in the state accepted. So when it enters this state, and then we have a target configuration. What I want to show you here is how to define find targets options with all the available options that you have. So the first one is via property, and this property is our direct reference, which means that our trigger source, which is offer, has a property opportunity, which is a lookup to opportunity objects. And this will find related opportunity and set the workflow state to 1 on it. If you have a case where offer doesn't have direct reference, but let me say that the opportunity has a reference to offer, then this is the indirect reference, and the reference property is not opportunity but offer. So if you change this to offer and set the indirect reference, the state will be also set it on that opportunity that we want. But it can also happen that our source and target don't have reference to each other, so nor direct nor indirect. So for this use case, I said that our offer has a deal, and our opportunity also have this deal property, which is populated with the same object as on offer. And in this case, you want to find this target via search. So you set find targets to via search, and then you need to define the target search configuration to find this opportunity. So we say define the type, which is set to opportunity, and then in the property conditions we say that our target class is opportunity, and the matching property that needs to be matched so that we change only that one opportunity that we want is deal. So we say that deal property on the opportunity needs to have the same value that is set it on our source object. So we set this with the dynamic value. So this is the dynamic value from the source object. And in the end, this rule will again set the state property to 1 on that opportunity object. Okay, so we can go to our second use case. Our second use case is on source object. So we again have two different object types. We have a department and employee. And what we want to achieve here is that when the department object gets changed, we want to check if all the employees that have user groups populated with the user group from department, and append all that employees to the employees property on the department object. So let me show you the configuration of this rule. So our once again, our configuration mode is set to advanced, and our copy mode is set to on source object. Our trigger source object is department, and we have some additional search filter where we say that we want this rule to be triggered only when the user groups on the department are not empty. In the properties, then we will set this employees value based on a value from setting. So here you have value from, and here you can see that we have some different options, and the first one we will go through is the specify. Specify, it means that we will define some additional search with which where we say that we are searching for the objects from class employee, which user groups contains user group from the department object. So when the object and when the search returns all the result that it finds in the vault, it will append each employee to the employees property. This here means that it will append self. So that search will return employee objects, and then it will set them to the employees property. So this is the first value when we are set to value from to specify. And our second case is when we use a vault search. So as you can see here, I have already defined some vault search. For this, I created a duplicate department object that has the same user groups as this source object. You can see it here that I'm searching for an object that which class is the same as the source and which user group's property has the same value as the source object. And what I want to do next is that I want to populate these employees from vault search result. So this vault search will always return only one object, and it will basically just copy the value from vault search to the value or from the value of employees from the vault search to the value of the employees property on our source object. Just that in that case we are not appending self, but we will say set me property employees. So, and in a case when the vault search will actually find the object that has the same user group, then it will copy the data from employees to the employees property on our source. And the last option is source. For source, there is no additional search. What we can do is just that if on source we have a property A and we want to copy this property A value to property B, then we would set value from to source and set the employees from employees B, if we would have this property, and that would then copy the values from employees B to our employees property. Okay, that would be all from me. Thank you all for watching, and now over to you, Ines.
All right. So thank you, Victor, and thank you, Tadej, for your presentations. We have one question so far, so let's start with the Q&A part. So can you please join us here, Victor and Tadej, again, to answer the question. All right, so the question is from Nico. Is an indirection property possible in the entry dynamic value? For example, offer.employee. All right, here we go. Tadej and Victor, I will read the question once again so that you can answer, okay? So the question is an indirection property possible in the entry dynamic value? For example, offer.employee.
Yeah, so you cannot, so in the dynamic search filters, the first property you are referencing the operator and value later on cannot be indirect. It can be only on your source, but the value you are conditioning it with some operator can be indirect, like you said, offer.employee, etc. So yeah, the value can be conditioned like that.
All right, so thank you for your answer. There are no more questions, actually. So I believe it means that the presentations were insightful, detailed, and clear. But nevertheless, let me remind all of you that you can always contact us through our contact page and through our community. And yes, in the meantime, we have received another question. So the question is, when using regular expression to extract a decimal value and place it in a real number property, it seems like the decimal point or comma is not used correctly. Example, 77.39 is placed in M files as 7739.00.
Okay, so I don't have a real answer for this right now. I will have to check it, and then I can answer on this on your email, or if you can put this question on our community, maybe, so we can solve it there, because it seems like a bug right now to me, but we have to check it.
Okay, thank you. So Carl, if it's no problem, please put that question on our community. Are there any more questions? All right, so let me remind all of you, if you have missed the news, so there have been a lot of news in the Extension Kit world lately. So you can check out the release notes on our website. And also we will give you another minute or two if there would be some more questions. But in the meantime, I will remind you once again that this webinar has been recorded, and the webinar recording will be sent to you in a follow-up email in case you have missed something, or in case you want to rewatch some of its parts. All right. Okay, so if there are no more questions, I would like to thank you all for joining us today. Once again, you can contact us through our contact page or through our community. And thank you again. And okay, so please enjoy the rest of your day. And until next time, goodbye.